Welcome to Josh and Aaron Talk About Stuff. I'm Josh.
I think I'm still Aaron.
You are.
Okay, that's good. I'm
Uh,
glad.
Sorry for the delay in episodes. Aaron and I both went back to work. We're both teachers, so it's like
Return to normalcy, if you will.
the first couple weeks of school when it starts back is nuts. So
It's busy. Doesn't
we're
matter where
still,
you work, it's busy.
we haven't forgot about our loyal listeners, which we do have 7 to 9 loyal listeners, which I really appreciate.
Well, that's cool.
Spread it around, man. I want more. I want more
Yeah,
listeners.
right.
So today's topic is not going to be fun, but we got to talk about it. But before we get to there, so Aaron and I love music, and we're always going to talk about music. And
Absolutely.
I was going through looking at Pearl Jam's albums from start to finish, and uh, they went through a period where I'm not really a fan, but I think with Gigaton they brought it back to more of a this is Pearl Jam.
I think that's what a lot of people felt like.
What was like Backspacer and Lightning Bolt?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
but
I love
Aaron recently bought No Code on the reissue vinyl,
which is
my favorite album. I think I said Versus, but No Code. I think that one's.
I got that reissue vinyl and I played it so many times. I'd put it in top. It's in the top 3 for me.
It's
really,
so different
fantastic.
too.
It's very different, but honestly,
different.
what it was a different it was that transition album that really brought them over to where Yield was. Yield is my favorite.
Yeah.
And so you can hear they're kind of like they're trying to kind of figure out what they're gonna do. What's next? You know what I mean? Like what's the sound?
I think like the first 3 albums, like and with most bands, like your first album or your first 2 is all the stuff you wrote before you were able to make an album. And so the first 3 albums were stuff they wrote on the road and and so when they went to go No Code, it was kind of like we got nothing. Let's just start.
Let's figure out who we are.
Plus, they brought in Jack Irons, and when you change your drummer, it's gonna change the direction a little bit of how you're gonna sound.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, I remember when I first bought it, I was like, "This is so weird."
Yeah, it is weird. It is weird, but I loved it. Speaking of drummers, Charlie Watts. Not even like we've talked about, not a massive Stones fan.
Yeah.
But I mean, dude, that's a legend right there. So that is a legend.
Yeah, and I don't know how. Of course, everyone's saying he, one of the greatest drummers of all time, but I think there are many drummers that would be ranked before him, but that doesn't discredit his ability as a drummer. And I've watched some interviews recently. The way he grew up in drumming was you're just backing the band. You're the foundation. He never liked drum solos. So he's not a Keith Moon, obviously, or a John Bonham, which you don't need to be. But I couldn't drum. I can't drum.
I don't have the time.
And like some of us has some cool drum rhythms, but like he is a legend and he stayed with one band for 40 plus years. Like it's insane that most bands don't stick around together. The Rolling Stones have. It's nuts.
No, it's impressive. With no lineup changes. There's not many that do that, that stick around like that with no lineup changes.
They had one. They fired Brian Jones and then he died in 1969 for drug stuff. But then they brought in Ronnie. So they've had one lineup change, right?
Yeah.
But
that doesn't really count when it's that early on.
Right.
You had none. That's like they're one of the few bands no lineup changes. So.
And it's a testament to you get friendship. You can't hate each other really in a band for that long.
No, you're clearly friends. You're beyond friends at that point. You're something more.
Right. Soulmates, man. You can be soulmates like that. Yeah.
And then also speaking about music, did you see that the Naked Baby is suing suing Nirvana for the album cover?
I was like, naked? No. Because
so the guy on the cover of Nevermind,
little dude showing his wee wee.
Yeah, is now 30, and he is suing Nirvana, the estate of Cobain, Grohl, Novoselic, the record company, and like half a dozen other people for child pornography, suing them for $150,000 a piece. And all I could think after I read that is, hey, look, the little baby is still chasing the dollar.
Yeah, but that's not like, how would you like? Oh, sorry, folks, but whatever. How would you describe what pornography is?
It ain't that.
Yeah, it's not that, right? It's not
It ain't that.
That's a culture where, I mean, look,
yeah,
people have always lusted after money.
Who do I
But
know that I can
Jesus.
sue?
Right. So the
He's
little
like, oh wait,
baby who's now 30,
I'm now
thinks that
scarred. I've become scarred, and I've realized that I've been scarred by appearing on this album cover and everybody seeing my
maybe
little
he should
baby.
sue the people who threw him in a pool.
Right, his parents, sue your parents because
To
they threw you in there
possibly
and they
drown.
got paid for the album. They got paid like
Right.
they
Maybe you
didn't
need
get
to
paid
sue
much, but
them
they got
because they granted permission.
paid for
Right.
the picture. Yeah,
Right.
they did 100%.
Right.
They
So,
provided the picture.
whatever.
Anyway, let's talk about what we
Only
really
in
came here to
America.
talk
All right.
about.
So
Right?
today's topic is relevant to the news, especially today.
Yeah, right.
With America's Forever War.
Right.
War of Afghanistan that started in 2001. We have pulled out the troops, still trying to get civilians out, and then I guess today there was a bombing that killed 11 Marines and a Navy medic.
Okay, I read about that, but I didn't have a chance to actually read up on it before we started.
And so, of course, all media, but especially conservative media, has gone nuts with this because now it's, everything is Biden's fault. But like, people, I feel like anybody associated with the government and then moves to the commentator, stop changing the facts to fit your narrative. Just tell the truth. And if you made a mistake, admit it, because then people will start trusting you. This constant shedding of responsibility off to somebody else is ridiculous. Because you know what? We could blame Reagan being involved in Afghanistan, and Bush, and Obama. Trump, the one thing he wanted to get out of Afghanistan. But, it makes it hard to do that against the Taliban successfully when you release 5,000 prisoners and the leader, who is now the de facto president of Afghanistan.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
and honestly, I know. So I feel sadly uneducated about the topic. Like, I mean, I know the basics of it, but there's so much in this that I don't know. And I'm, you know what I mean? It's like we've been there for 20 years.
20 years. And the media is kind of the same. Like, of course, it's the story of the moment now, and now they're like asking all these questions. But what about in year 7? Where were you then? Freaking out over the war in Afghanistan.
Right.
Like, if they were freaking out over hunger in America like they are over this, maybe we could solve hunger. But it's just, first off, what about the generals? Isn't it their job to plan? I know the buck stops here. Harry Truman ruined presidents forever after that. Since the president's the commander-in-chief of the armed forces, but he's a civilian. He doesn't train to evacuate troops from a
right.
But you have generals and a chain of command. Why aren't their feet being held to the fire? I guess he could have said.
The issue that people are having. So help me out then. Is the issue that people are having, is it that we're leaving, or is it the way that we're leaving? Because I really thought the goal for a lot of people was for us to get out of there.
Right. Well, I think the actual execution, they should have got the civilians out first, and then the military leaves.
Yeah.
But the military left, and now the civilians are stuck there. What was the question? Because I had an answer to it. You said what?
Oh, I said, is the issue that we left, or is the issue the way that we left?
Oh, well, I think the issue is we wasted, what was it, like $3 trillion on a 20-year war that 11 days after we left, the Taliban started taking over piece by piece by piece.
But I mean, now they have. How is that anything that anybody could have fixed at this point? Like,
well, right. Like, first off, look, we have Americans in America have never had to deal with a war-torn country, right? We're
surely so right now,
right.
At this point in our world, but, unless you lived in 1864, no, you had it.
Right. But like, there was a generation of soon-to-be Americans that went to war for their beliefs in their country. why aren't the people in Afghanistan doing that? Is life too precious that they would rather just leave than actually fight for the country? And the military, supposedly, that we beefed up and armed up, they did not fight against the Taliban. They just laid down their arms and let the Taliban take over. Well, what are we supposed to do about that? You know, like
right,
I think people are upset that like we spent all this money and then the second we leave, it's all undone.
Right.
Like we could have paid for universal health care 3 times over.
Right.
With the amount of money we spent. But like, here's the thing though. What made people actually think that we had actually changed the hearts and minds of the Afghan people and they wanted democracy or whatever it is, right? Like, I think everybody involved knew they just didn't think it was going to fall so fast because Vietnam fell to the North Vietnamese after about 18 months fully after we left Vietnam. This just happened so quick. I think people were like, "Oh my god!"
Collapse of it, I think, is what shocked
right.
people.
So
right?
here. So what we need to do is,
you know, what do they say? Something has to fill a vacuum, right? You know,
right. And apparently, we didn't kill enough Taliban members. You know, I mean, if there was well, here's the thing: no country is willing to go in total war the whole place because you'd have to murder everybody. You'd have to kill every single person in there and then start fresh.
Right, and that's not going to happen.
Right. So,
I mean, the human cost was already too great.
Right.
I mean, come on.
But it's funny though that like you know we never talk about the cost of war. It's blank check season, baby. But talking about infrastructure, how are we going to pay for it? By not funding these forever wars. Well, the United States needs to stop screwing around in parts of the world it can't fix, which is most of it. Stay out of it. Right? If those people there are going to have to want freedom on their own. And like it's weird though, like the number of people that have left Afghanistan, it sucks because it's like, well, what would I really do in that position? But you have to fight for your country. And a lot of you are going to die. Yeah. But I mean, like it's one thing to say, you know, I'm a dude living in America who's never been around war, but I can't help that. I would have been in the military if I didn't have cystic fibrosis.
Yeah.
They wouldn't let me join. So it's not, and my dad, whatever.
They wouldn't let me join.
Right, man.
But the attitude to go along with it.
Right. So it's like, we were talking today, like, you know, there have been shows that have started and ended in between the wars of Afghanistan.
There's been so much that happened.
Right. Dude, it's nuts how much money we've spent.
My son was born before the war. I mean, was born after the war started. And
That's
just
nuts.
turned 20.
That's nuts, man. That's nuts.
He was born like 2 months after it started. And he's almost 21.
And for what? So it's like, and you know, every congressman and woman and senator that voted to continue the war, because you know, Congress declares war, folks.
Right, exactly.
They can undeclare war. They need to have their feet held to the fire too.
Absolutely.
And what we need to do, like, this is if my dad listens, you know, Dad, I love you, but we've had an ongoing discussion about military spending, and like, we don't fight wars anymore with giant armies on the battlefield.
No.
Right?
Those days are gone.
We can have troops, which we should. No, we need to continue to develop technology because we're not going to be fighting the Taliban in open battlefield anymore, like World War II. Right?
No, those days are.
So we don't need to spend money on 1 million troops.
Right.
Right. But I think the defense budget's going up again next year.
Yeah.
So how can that be if we're not? How can we justify that if we're not at war with anybody?
Because you just never know, man.
But war is a money making business, and the non-rich people and the non-uppers in the military, we're the ones who have to bear the burden and the cost of it.
Yeah.
And you know, it's like if people really want to go to war, all these war hawks in the United States Congress, then why don't you put your boots on and get a gun and go over there? You won't,
because he ain't no senator's son.
Right. So it's always funny that the people that advocate for war are so unwilling to actually go do it. And so what we do in this idiotic human society of ours is we send 18-year-olds to go fight a war for us. Though we need to start sending 50 and up. Let's reverse the draft. How about that? But you're not 50 yet, dude. I'm just saying, like, we need to stop sacrificing our youth.
Start sacrificing the old dudes.
Yeah. If you want to go to war so bad, then freaking enlist. Change the law so you can enlist. But we wouldn't have to be in war.
I'm definitely chomping at the bit to get in.
But you don't advocate for starting shit in the rest of the world.
I know. I'm just
right. I understand that there are evil human beings out there. We need to protect ourselves against it, but we also don't need to be meddling.
Yeah.
Because what we really should be doing is going into Saudi Arabia, not Afghanistan.
Right.
But that's another point. So it's just like, I think people are just fed up with it's like the amount of money that we spent and justified that day one we leave, the country starts falling immediately.
It's like, why did we even do this?
Right. Well, what did we accomplish? Apparently, we didn't accomplish shit.
No, I get it.
Right. And I'm sorry for dropping some curse words or whatever, but grow up if it offends you. I don't know. I'm just saying, like, it's frustrating.
I'm mad today.
It's frustrating because, like,
yeah, no, absolutely.
My dad and I have talked a lot about Vietnam lately because he fought in Vietnam. Sure. And the country, man, they use that patriotic crap to twist your mind. He thought he was serving his country, which he did serve his country. His country
right, no, absolutely
asked people to fight, to contain communism, whatever, and he goes there, 58,000 soldiers dead later, we leave Vietnam. Guess what? It's like they're still there, but all our soldiers are dead. It's like, what was the point?
Why do we bother?
Because Vietnam fell anyway.
Yeah.
It eventually worked itself out, but I don't know. Like, there's some fights that are worth justifying, that are worth fighting.
Yeah.
But we cannot continue to. We can't. A lot of Afghanistan, I know we had allies fighting with us, but a lot of them stopped, I think.
They pieced out pretty fast.
But fortunately, any soldier death is too many, but less than 3,000 soldiers, I think, died in the whole 20 years, which is pretty good.
Yeah. I mean, it could have been a far worse death toll for a 20-year, engagement. It could have been far worse.
Right.
Nam was, how many years was Nam? I mean,
the first real battle took place in 65, and I think they pulled out in 73, maybe 75. Like so 10 years at the most.
58,000 soldiers.
But we were screwing around in Vietnam in the 40s and 50s.
Yeah.
And when you occupy a country, the natives get restless, man.
Yeah.
Because it's all about money. Because I think the French were in there, and then the Vietnamese got their act together and whooped them and kicked them out.
And how do you know they were French? Because of their little wedge sack of sense.
They called it Indochina. That's
Indochina.
But so like I tell my dad, like, I support the military. We, in this point in society, we need military still. Okay, but we don't need, even if we cut the budget, we're still outspending the next 10 countries.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, we can still cut the budget and still protect America. Okay. Right. But we have to stop staying in countries. Like, we don't need an Air Force base in Germany. The other flip side of that coin is, like, I know we've had a base in Korea since for a long freaking time. If we left the DMZ zone and left South Korea on its own, North Korea would run it over. So it's like, well, Jesus. It's like, but on the other side of that coin, there's three sides to every coin.
Right, exactly.
On the other side of that other side,
what kind of coins are you using?
Why we cannot continue to be the reason a country falls or doesn't fall. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I see what you're saying. I do. But at this point, though, can you imagine if we pull out of South? I think if we left,
it would suck. We'd have to use nukes. Really, that's probably the only reason that stuff has stayed at bay.
Honestly,
it
yeah. I mean, I think if we were to pull, I think it would be global proportions if we actually left the DMZ, because it was like because North Korea would just,
and we'd have to go in, and then China would back them up. It would pull us into World War III.
It really would. That would start. I mean, it's like at this point, I think.
So it's like, what do you do, man? So what do you do?
It's like, well, in that case, you leave it. I mean, you leave it because you got no choice, almost.
But at what point are humans going to evolve past this foolishness?
You know what? We will never be as evolved as the dog behind you when it comes to that. They're all good boys, right?
They're all good boys.
They're good boys. They just want to eat.
So I hope that we can get the rest of the Americans out with no casualties. And what I would do if I was Biden now, I would say, any more shenanigans, any more tomfoolery, any more malarkey. We will rain down hell.
Yeah.
We will kill every woman and child and relative, something, any
more. We're gonna send in the stealths, and it's just gonna be like,
right. But you know what's also BS? The Afghan president tucked tail and ran and left that country too. That's like,
that's not all about, homie.
It's definitely not like the captain of a ship who's the last one off if it's sinking.
Right. And the thing you're supposed to stay on the ship. It's like stay on the ship, buddy.
So apparently his life is more important than his constituents, which most elected officials feel that way, which is it's ridiculous. But yeah, we've been rambling, but
pretty focused ramblings.
Yeah, so I mean, if you're a war hawk, then suit up, buddy. Get your butt over there.
Go get into action.
And like, I swear, man, I might just be ready to end Facebook as like just not even, because people have felt
Facebook is one of the absolute supreme examples of misinformation that exists. It may be the ultimate spewer of misinformation. I mean, when it comes to anything and everything, if there is some people, I saw an article on Facebook. Oh, okay. So, and that article came from where? Well, it came from this website, and it was researched by whom? It was researched by this guy down the street.
Right. I love they threw the term research around very loosely.
Oh my gosh.
Looking on Wikipedia is not research.
Research, yeah. I'm sorry. Looking at it, it's like getting it from this underground news website is not reliable research. Right. I mean, maybe all these people that are on Facebook, they need to come and take my 7th grade English class where I talk about reliable research.
Right. Peer-reviewed studies and
reliable because honestly.
Yep. All right. Final word.
Anyway.
Biden does share some blame in the execution of the withdrawal. He says that he was handcuffed by the deal that Trump made. But you know what? The president can do what the hell he wants in that regard. He could have undone it. But he was like, all right, I'm going to follow it. Sure. The generals might need to be replaced that were in charge of that. Because don't you train for stuff like this?
Yeah, right. Seriously.
And then we left all the equipment behind, man. I want a refund on my taxes for helping fund stuff that you just left behind.
Where are all those tanks? Oh, we left them.
Like, come on, man. But it's not Biden's fault that Afghanistan
rolled over.
We have to. All the presidents share the blame. But anyway, on a public, what do you call it? Public service announcement note.
Oh,
get vaccinated, guys, and tell the people, because like schools are starting to shut down now. The vaccinated are being held hostage by the unvaccinated because
the governor of my great state has declared that all teachers must be vaccinated as of October 18th, and that has created an absolute and general uproar.
Of course, but did they remember when they got the job that they had to have vaccines up to date and get a TB test? Did they forget that part? Do parents forget that in order to send your kid to public school, there's a list of vaccines you have to have?
Like 10, 20 vaccines.
So, we've talked about it before, but God almighty, guys, it is way too deep into this pandemic for us to still be dealing with this.
Right, seriously. If we had done what we should have done from the get-go, this would be done.
Right.
It would be done.
because here's what's going to happen. The Delta variant's going to change. It's going to mutate again. And people that are vaccinated, it won't matter now. We'll have to get a whole brand new vaccine.
Right. Absolutely.
All right. Sorry for the soldiers that have sacrificed their life in vain for
absolutely
a wasted cause. We're better than that. America, let's put our money where their mouth is.
Yeah.
And we need to help all the Afghan people that helped us in that war. Translators.
Oh my gosh.
Undercover
absolutely.
people. We owe it to them to give them a better life over here. But we also owe it. We owe a lot to a lot of people that we forget about.
If they were specifically helping us out over there, we should have gotten them out with the soldiers, because they basically were a soldier.
Right. And now the Taliban's going to find out that they helped, and they're going to get murdered, and their whole family
absolutely
get murdered.
Yep.
Anyway, all right, guys. We'll see you next week. Hopefully on a. All topics in the news today are depressing, so I don't know. We'll try to find something with sunshine in it, but probably not. Not now.
We'll try.
COVID and full swing
and war.
still, and war. Like war, man. War has been part of this world since humans started walking it.
It really has.
It's just nuts. All right. Anyway, have a good listen, share it around, all that stuff, and we'll see you guys next week. Bye now.
Later.